and appropriation limits. It doesn't say operating budget, but operating budget also. And the recommendation is to pass a motion to, 1, approve the City of Marysville fiscal year 2026-2027 operating budget. 2, adopt an appropriately numbered resolution approving the fiscal year 2026-27 operating budget. 3, adopt an appropriately numbered resolution approving the fiscal year 2026-2027 full-time and permanent part-time position allocation. 4, adopt an appropriately numbered resolution approving the fiscal year 2026-2027 master salary table. Adopt, and 5, adopt a resolution, appropriately numbered resolution approving the fiscal year 2026-2027 consolidated financial management policy. 6, adopt an appropriately numbered resolution approving the fiscal year 2026-2027 investment policy. And 7, adopt appropriately numbered resolution establishing the city's fiscal year 2026-2027 annual appropriations limit. Noting that the operating budget is a function of a number of the items below, let's start at item, presenting. Would you present item number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll come back up to the operating budget? Actually, 2 is approving, so how about starting with item number 3? And are there any changes? Is this something new? Is there anything new in this data?
The data that's presented in
I can't hear you.
The data that's presented in these subsequent resolutions is something that the city needs to begin adopting statutorily to remain in compliance with state regulations and pension compliance as well.
No, I understand that. But is there any change from
the
prior year in terms of permanent and part-time positions?
The prior year will have the employees from the fire department included in it. The current year, they have been removed as part of the annexation process.
That's the only change?
That's the major change.
What other changes?
The only minor change is there is a title change to a position. We used to have a support services manager, and now we have an administrative services manager. That position is in the police department.
Anything else?
No.
What about human resources?
The human resources position was was included in the documentation last year as part of the approved positions. It just wasn't funded at that point in time. When we went out to hire a temporary or a retired annuitant for it, that position was part of our continued positions moving forward, and it is part of the budget request for fiscal 27 this year.
Thank you. Item number 4, please jump in. I'm just going down the line here. Anybody wants to ask a question? The master's salary table, are there any changes from prior year?
Again, the only change from the prior year would be the removal of the fire department and associated fire employees as part of the annexation for fiscal 27.
But the salary ranges are still the same?
They're the same in the sense where we have a 2-year MOU, and this year there are increases respective of 1.5 to 2% for those specific bargaining units, and the management and mid-management executive salary schedule has remained the same.
But these are within the ranges?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other comment on item number 4? Tell us about item number 5, the consolidated financial management policy.
The consolidated financial management policy, so when the city adopts a policy by resolution, they're only statutory for that one specific year. Policy should be adopted as part of the budget process annually. The consolidated financial management policy has been a previously approved and adopted policy that the city has done in prior fiscal years. But again, as part of the statutory budget process, it should be recognized annually. And so moving forward, we used to have an individual policy for budget and finance, investment, the general fund reserve, and I can't think off the top of my head, the third policy, and those policies again were individually adopted by council at previous fiscal years, but we're just doing so annually as part of the budget process.
Thank you. And item number 6, tell us about the investment policies. If you could briefly describe it and share any changes.
There are no changes either to the investment policy or in the previous item for the consolidated financial management policy. The investment policy dictates that the city will invest idle funds to further promote financial sustainability and growth. At this point in time, the finance director is the designated investment officer of the city of Marysville. I primarily work closely with our certified financial planners, Wolf Hansen, to handle our treasuries, our reinvestment of treasuries, and then I also oversee the investments that we have in the local agency investment fund, also called LIFE, and I'm also overseeing the investments in the Yuba County investment pool, and all of those are under the jurisdiction of Finance Department with direction from the city manager as well as council if any major transfer or liquidation needs to occur.
And skip item 7, the appropriations limit. I don't see anything. Is there anything with any of these documents showing the status of the general fund reserves?
Not at this time, no.
What are the current general fund reserves?
There's approximately $4.8 million in the local agency investment fund, which is LAIF. There's $5.7 million sitting in the U.S. Treasury bills. We are in the process of finalizing a trade for approximately $1.5 million. We have secured that at 412 basis points for a 2-year treasury at this point in time, which will yield approximately $116,000 over the next 2 years.
What is the unrestricted reserve?
The unrestricted reserve at this point in time is $6.7 million.
6.7. Okay, let's go to the operating budget then.
Sure.
Sir. 6 point something.
6.7. Approximately 4.8 is restricted. Yes.
Okay. Tell us about the proposed operating budget.
Sure. Hold on, it's not. Me too. So this is the brief agenda of this entire PowerPoint at this point in time. I will just move for the budget overview as requested through the chair. So the general fund overview, staff is presenting a balanced operating budget for council to approve. If you look at the boxes on the right-hand side, you'll have the general fund expenditures and revenue, the streets revenue and expenditures, and wastewater revenue and expenditures. Those have not changed since the last presentation. There have been no changes to the budget at this time. Major structural change is the annexation of the fire services to the Linda Fire Protection District. That is effective July 1st, 2026, which is tomorrow. Bargaining unit increases per the respective MOU agreements are at 1.5% and 2% respectively by Teamsters and the MPOA. Within this budget, there is an inclusion of a request for a full-time human resources director. I understand that there may be questions at this point, so if I could get through this slide, we can discuss that. There is also 2 items that are considered unusual and infrequent. That's the specific GASB language that we utilize to describe items that are extraordinary. Extraordinary is no longer utilized as a terminology for it. Those 2 items are the Cal OSHA appeals and the Linda Fire annexation reserve distribution. Now, at this point in time, depending on what the finalization is, management may have to come back to council to authorize an increased amount if year one's payment exceeds $297,000. I do want to make that distinction where If the MOU agreement year one exceeds 297, we will have to come back before council to request a supplemental authorization as a drawdown to increase that to whatever newly agreed upon number we make with the district, the Linda Fire Protection District. Significant increases to workers' compensation, insurance, and the unfunded pension liability. Workers' compensation saw an increase of approximately $200,000, the same with the unfunded pension liability. And insurance rates, again, just gradually keep increasing every single year. For fiscal 27, for the next 7 to 8 years, there is a balloon payment for the pension obligation bond. Those payments are the drawdowns, the 5 drawdowns that we've made for police and fire and the public employee retirement system, both on the classic and PEPRA plans. Those drawdowns are due to be paid within this upcoming fiscal year. It's approximately $1.4 million of our general fund debt service. And then also as part of the budget, there are cost allocations to other funds such as streets and the wastewater enterprise for the unfunded pension liability, the pension obligation bond, and funds for insurance as appropriate. That's the broad overview of this budget as it pertains to any of the structural changes or differences from last year to this year. Are there any questions?
Rollins.
I had a question earlier in the day for Anita, and she asked a question, so I think I'm fine.
No questions at this time.
I have none either.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I have a question on the increased pension obligation bond payment. Why was there an increase in that?
So for the first 3 years, as per the amortization schedule, the payments were steady. They're pretty much the same, about $250,000 per year. And then last year, it incrementally saw an increase from $250,000 to approximately $350,000. This year, principal and interest combined, and that's just the principal portion. So principal and interest combined for this fiscal year, it does shoot up to approximately $1.4 million.
So what's the cause of the increase?
The cause of the increase would have to be how the financing terms were initially completed at that point in time and how the interest rates fell and the long-term amortization of the 5 specific drawdowns from the POB. If you, let me see. So if we, at that point in time, we had 5 distributions for the pension obligation bond to pay off CalPERS for that unfunded pension liability that had been accruing for several years. In 2019, the city realized that they needed to borrow several millions of dollars. I think it's approximately $14 or $15 million to satisfy the pension obligation or the unfunded pension liability at that point.
Okay, before you go too deep into that, I'm trying to just understand why the payment would change on that bond.
The payment changed just because how the amortization schedule is set up. There are balloon payments starting in fiscal 27 for the next 7 to 8 years.
We had an amortization from the time we got the bond?
Yes.
That showed that increase?
Yes.
And at this point, are we still keeping up on our current obligations?
Yes, every single year, usually by July 15th, give or take, we do pay the unfunded pension liability in full. There is a minor discount by doing so. And the city chooses to remain on top of it. So we do pay our POB in one fiscal year as well as the full balance of the unfunded pension liability.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I could direct y'all's attention to page number 4 of the detailed budget presentation.
Yes, please.
Page number 4. It's account 10-112. That would be wages and benefits and services and supplies. The proposed amount equals approximately $532,000. May I ask, Madam Finance Director, in prior versions of the budget, of the proposed budget, the 25-26 budget amounts were included. Why are they not included here?
526.
For comparison?
To the chair, that was my question for you today, Anisha.
Oh, for 10112 specifically?
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, for line item 10112?
Yeah, you look at, and again, in prior versions, the numbers were there, and in fact, they showed a total of $345,000 for those same items as compared to the $532,000 in the proposed budget, $187,000 difference, which, to my way of thinking, is a step change, a sudden and significant change. And it would be interesting. I'm just curious why the prior numbers weren't there for comparison.
So the prior numbers were not there initially, and the reason that they're representing there in the fiscal 27 budget is in prior fiscal years, the only employee for the Human Resources Department was the HR tech. The HR tech was a combined position with the city manager's assistant as well as the city clerk.
But also included our consultant and what have you, correct?
I'm sorry?
Well, again, you have to go back and look at it because in every version I saw before.
Through the chair.
Sir.
If I may, I believe what she's referring to is our former city clerk that had the 3 positions, and we did not have a consultant the last couple of years of her tenure here. We had a consultant prior to that, but it was just her as a single individual doing HR and the other 2 positions.
I don't think that was
True
for the last fiscal year.
This is the last fiscal year, I
The
believe.
one we're just finishing today.
I believe you're correct.
That's not true for that last fiscal.
So the salaries for that specific employer are all charged out of the city manager's budget. We've never prorated the positions to the different.
Pardon me, I'm looking at the budget amount I think it's the same in all 3 sets of the budget that you showed before this set. And it does show $67,000 salary and related benefits, but it also shows professional and specialized services. I presume that's our consultant, Mr. Perry?
Yes, as well as other for the labor negotiations.
So again, if you look at those costs, compare them, this is a $187,000 increase year to year in the cost of human resources. Total now is $311 plus $221,000, $532,000. And again, the budget, in years I could get it right, for 25-26 was $345,000. Again, $187,000 increase.
That primarily has to do with requests for an HR director, that increased line item.
And I'm not seeing anything in this budget about an offset or an arrangement with fire district.
It will not be realized until that agreement has come to fruition.
And how much of this $187,000 difference will be consumed by the fire service?
It would depend on what the agreement says, but I will defer to our city manager as he's part of the negotiations.
That negotiation is yet to be completed. The numbers thrown around thus far informally are 30% of the HR director's salary, but I know that there have been some concerns about the additional expenses within the HR realm of line items, and so we will be continuing that negotiation. The budget is constructed assuming that that is not occurring at this point.
So we're going to increase one department by $187,000. Might be stuck with it if we don't reach an arrangement with the
Through the chair. This line item 10112, is it for potentially two people to be in that department?
There is 2 employees in that department right now. It's the HR tech and as well as a request for the HR director.
And that has not been the case in the past?
No, normally the HR tech was a combined position with the city manager's assistant as well as the city clerk. The full balance of that salary was dispersed and charged out of the city manager's budget.
And now that you've pulled them out of those line items and brought them all into one for this right here, is that what I'm kind of understanding?
Yes, when we hired the new HR tech, I wanted to put some of the salaries where they belonged. At this point in time, it was a nominal amount, so we decided to just leave it where it was for this point and then readdress it at this new fiscal year. As stated in previous presentations, I am in the process of cleaning up a lot of where these expenses are being charged from, or charged against rather, and just for clarity purposes, for budgetary purposes, and for.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, Mayor, might I give a little bit of light as to why that numbers might be different from the ones you're looking at from years previous? Is they got pulled out of other line items and all clumped into this one, if you will.
Well, again, the budget for 25-26 had technician
Just
in
a
that
technician.
budget.
Yeah, just a technician.
Had the technician in the budget, but it also had the prime functionary, Mr. Perry, on a separate line.
Mr. Perry's services would have been charged in the operation and maintenance portion of it, not have been charged in the salary and wage section.
No, I know it's not salary, but it's cost. It's still dollars. Warm up my computer again. And again, it was budgeted $136,000. So even though I know that much was not spent, that was the budget amount. So budget to budget, $187,000 increase, which is more than a 50% increase in that department. And the city will be stuck paying all of it in the event an arrangement is not made with the fire service. And that, as I understood it, up to this point had been one of the selling points on adding the extra cost.
Yes.
Well, in my view, I cannot support a budget that includes that kind of an increase, a step change, sudden and significant change, when it's been admitted by virtue of the fact that there's a negotiation underway with fire services. It's admitted by virtue of that 100% of that person is not required for the city. Only 70% or whatever the number might be. It's not 100%. And so it seems less than responsible to approve this portion, the HR portion of the budget, other than some of these other items, the service and supplies and what have you, all that can go. But the personnel costs, until we know the outcome of that arrangement and how consistent that arrangement will be. We're going to hire someone at the higher level, which is implied here, an HR director. And again, it's been confessed by virtue of these negotiations that 100% of that person is not required for the city.
Through the chair.
Sir, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I understand that it is part of the negotiation process at this point in time. The budget is an appropriation, a recommended appropriation that allows the city to spend up to a certain amount.
I understand.
And so we are not bound to this specific line item. It authorizes the city to make this expense into a not to exceed amount. If it exceeds that amount or it's less than amount, let's say, that amount will be readjusted at the mid-year point. The budget process as it stands at this point in time is just a recommendation on what the management would like to propose to spend, but it may not come through fruition. And I understand that there is a potential for a cost sharing agreement with the district, but until that agreement comes through fruition and is voted on by both governing bodies, I don't think it's appropriate to make that recommendation as part of this budget at this point in time.
Well, I think it's, thank you for that, and I respect everything you've ever said today. But again, it's been confessed that 100% of that person is not required for the city.
To the chair.
Sir.
So, just to put this in plain English, if we choose not to hire a salaried permanent HR director, our alternative is to hire a consultant with some potential legal issues at a cost of roughly $10,000 less than the full-time employee. Now, that consultant will not be on site. A consultant will be doing Zoom meetings, and the number of hours that they will expend is roughly 1,000 hours, totaling on the low end a cost of $162,000 per year, not to be shared with the fire district at all, versus at the high end, $220,000, but more likely $180,000 per year for a full-time person who conservatively would give us 1,600 hours worth of work on site. So 180 roughly for a full-time salaried HR director on site, able to interface with people on a day-to-day basis, versus 162,000 at the low end for 1,000 hours doing Zoom meetings. So the Linda Fire would just lower that number, even at 30% of only the HR director's salary to be negotiated. It would yield a lower cost than using a consultant. And that doesn't even talk about all of the legal ramifications related to CalPERS on this.
Through the chair.
Sir.
So, I mean, I thank you, Anissa and Jim, for when that mayor bringing up the point, but I would have to agree with what Anissa was saying. The fact is that approving this budget as it sits allows us a window to work within. Doesn't mean we have to ever hit the ceiling on the budget. It just allows us to work within that budget. And Jim's numbers are more along the lines that I'm leaning on. The fact is that a full-time person, should rehire that person, would be available 1,600 hours a year, thereabouts.
At least.
Whereas a contracted individual is 2/3 of that. I see us just looking at a budget that we would approve, but we've never actually maxed or gone over our budget in the time that I've sat here on this dais. We've always been underneath it because of just good fiscal responsibility, and that's been the biggest key of me being on this board for all the years. So I get where you're going, Mayor, with funding a position that could be $180,000 more, as you put it. I don't necessarily know that our city manager is going to be paying that $180,000 more, and it's a limit up to $212,000. But I'm pretty sure, depending on experience, DOE, it's going to be somewhere underneath that. It allows us a window to work within. So, for the record, I'm okay with what I'm seeing here and what's being presented, and not sure where else we need to go with this. I mean,
Well, no, that's fine. I've read the analysis that city manager spoke to a moment ago.
To the chair.
Go ahead.
First of all, if to what you said, Councilman Hudson, approving this doesn't mean that we're going to spend more or less. It's giving staff ability to spend that without coming back here. First of all, which is a little bit concerning without knowing what the sharing agreement will, could, or maybe. Am I understanding right here, Jim, that I'm looking at three numbers. I'm looking at 236, 311, and 221. Are we talking to Linda Fire only about sharing 30% of the 236?
We were originally talking to Linda preliminarily is sharing how we do fire chief first, 30%, where that was from.
30%. That's what I'm
Of
asking.
his salary.
Oh,
His or her salary and benefit.
okay. This is what I'm trying to clarify. Salary is 236 that you've got built into here.
Some of that's the HR tech.
Okay. But at 238, it's costing us 311. So we take the tech out of there with its expenses. That's not what we're looking at to get 30% of. That's not the number we're attempting to get.
That's not the number that was initially thrown out. It was simply the director's salary and benefits.
Without any other expenses added on to it.
Correct. But that is to be negotiated, and I've taken Councilmember Rollins' input on that, and we can have that negotiation with Linda Fire to include other costs. Now, it just depends upon what Linda Fire and their board is willing to negotiate, but it's still a negotiation. But to give some numbers to this, I believe John Perry had done some analysis, and at the amount that's budgeted currently, which is $165,000.
For the HR director?
Yes.
Yes.
The cost with benefits at the highest rate would be $220,000 per year. I don't expect to start that person at the highest salary. None of my directors work at that salary. But by way of example, if we multiply that by 0.7, our cost would be $154,000 per year. That's if Linda only accepts 30%. That is still at the highest rate with what has already been discussed with Linda. It's lower than the lowest rate that Mr. Perry researched at $162,000 per year for 1,000 hours. So we would be at a lower cost even if negotiations are poor.
So
Lower cost.
So we're not even asking 30% of the 236 because that includes a tech. We're only asking 30% of 165.
Based on the conversations, we will ask for 30% of probably the 311, but we have that negotiation to go.
Do we have what our total HR costs were for last year?
Budget was 345.
I want to know what our actual...
345,000. That was just the budget amount. The actual was expected number, I think lower than that. I think part of that is because of some situations with our consultant that are being deferred. But the actual budget amount was 345,000.
I guess I would want to know actual with the deferred part. I mean, that's what we spent. We just moved it into another year or into another multiple budgeted year. Budget. Multiple budgets, excuse me.
To the chair, yeah, I'd asked Anisha today to pull the salaries from last year. I don't know if you had time. For the technician and John, so we could kind of look at that amount, what it was last year. I know you probably didn't have time, but I asked for that. But anyway, just so we know what we spent last year, right?
It was less than what was budgeted. What was budgeted was presuming a certain situation with our consultant that
Right.
was amended.
Right.
Yes.
How's that for language?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah,
thank you.
perfect language. Yeah.
But just using that, I'm using, which is a higher number. So it's a higher number, even in comparison to the higher number, it's 187 more. And what I'm concerned about is being stuck with that entire 187 difference. But in fact, again, and I beat this like a dead horse, I guess. By virtue of the fact that there is a conversation with the fire district to take on some percent of the cost, that's a confession that we don't need 100% of that person, city. So, 100% of that price, I should say. And my suggestion, as I look at this right now, we're looking at 582. And what was the portion, the dollar amount that would be absorbed by the fire district if that 30% works, Jim? It applies to which numbers? Just the salary number or the salary and benefits?
Currently salary only.
We have not negotiated that. If we were to use 30% of salary only, and we use the high amount,
$115,500.
Of 236, 219 is just the salary number?
If you're taking the 165, which is the top rate for the HR director, times 0.7, because that would be the city's portion
So are
of
you
it.
saying that the tech would do no work to benefit the fire service?
There, to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there has not been a discussion on sharing, cost sharing.
I'm not, I didn't ask that question. But would the tech also be supporting the fire service and the HR function?
I would imagine so, yes.
So you've got two people, both of them are supporting the fire service, not just the director.
To the chair. I had mentioned with Jim that I think that either they time study, they either time study or something to where they show what time they spent assisting the department, I'll call it, Linda Fire Department. They need to time study or something, or negotiate the percentage that they'll be assisting, negotiate it because that's your support staff. They're going to support the HR director.
And through the chair, the district, to my understanding, also has a employee that processes the clerical, HR, and related payroll functions of the district. And not only that, the current job description of our current employee would have to be amended to represent a change in that responsibility as it pertains to the district. So that is something that we would have to go through formally before we did that. And we'd also have to, if she's a city employee, we would have to discuss what her obligations are as well to the district. And so having a almost exempt employee as a director, but we have more flexibility to work on other projects. The reasoning behind having the director as a cost sharing is the flexibility that it affords us at that point. Having that non-exempt, or what's the terminology? Non-exempt employee status, it really does restrict what that tech is allowed to work on.
Related question then, the professional and specialized services in human resources, and I understand a lot of that is for background checks.
Yes, a majority of that is either background checks. As stated in the previous budget meetings that we've had, the police department specifically in public safety, they will background multiple employees for one position to ensure that they get a appropriate candidate per recruitment. So they could spend approximately $10,000 just on backgrounding, each employee for one position.
No, I understand that. That's appropriate, certainly. Does the fire service require background checks?
I would imagine so, but I will actually defer to Councilman Hudson. I'm not sure.
Through the chair, it's all department specific. Traditionally, Linda Fire Department has always hired within, so they knew what they had. They've never
always hired what?
They've always hired within their department. So they start.
How do they get them in?
They generally start with the reserve status, and then they go through like a volunteer internship before they get.
So they've had a chance to.
They've been vetted and so forth, but as every department's a little bit different. Marysville Fire Department used to do the same thing years ago. Even Marysville Police Department did, but now many departments are doing a hire on the outside, and they usually have to go through a contracted company to be able to vet any sort of potential applicants and so forth before they go through a hire process. So that all depends on how the department wishes to hire.
I'm all in favor of an HR function and a robust HR function. Don't get me wrong here. It's just that, again, understanding that by virtue of the negotiation with Linda Fire, 100% of these people is not required. And I'm going to presume that a tech works in synchronous motion with the director in terms of time allocation.
Through the chair.
Be good, Sarge. Oh, you take your time.
Through the chair.
Sir.
I do appreciate your due diligence, Mayor. I mean, you do analyze numbers way better than I do. But I'm looking at this and afraid that we might be getting a little too far into the weeds of what the staff is.
Please, I think I have the discretion to go into it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that.
And you're concerned I'm going too deep?
No, I don't. I think that the conversation of what we're trying to dictate and allow them to work within is why we hired them.
I'm looking at net cost to the city.
And I understand that.
What I'm hearing is from the city manager is that he's just negotiating 30% with respect to 30% of the HR director's salary only. Am I correct? Just the salary, not the benefits?
To clarify, we're negotiating. The initial number that was thrown out was 30% of the director's salary, but we have not negotiated the deal.
Who threw that number out?
They did.
Okay, so you're negotiating.
Yes.
Well, until such time as we know what that negotiation, what that yields, and we have a hard number net to the city, seems premature to either approve this element of the budget or require a resolution of that negotiation before we do approve this element of the budget. It's a lot of money, and it doesn't seem responsible to go ahead without knowing exactly what we're looking at. I do understand what you're saying up to that amount, but up to that amount is dollars, and we might be stuck with all of it if we hire a person that's targeting, have a team that's targeting this 236 plus benefits 311.
Through the chair.
Sir.
So I can offer an alternative, and it's not my recommended alternative, but if we do not have the ability to hire an HR director internally, then we will need funding for the HR consultant for the year, and I would recommend that we put in roughly $200,000 for that.
I saw that analysis, but that analysis has not been audited or compared to anything else. And I understand that's a number, it's a fair number.
To the chair.
But, for example, and wondering if, presuming that this person would be taking care of fire district and the city. If they don't have to take care of the fire district, which is a significant undertaking, it's at least 30% is what I'm understanding. At least 30%. Then what kind of person would you need to hire? What would be the salary profile of the team required to only do the city? That's one question. The other is, I do appreciate the sharing and the concept of sharing and how that can reduce the expense. I was looking at not just that person's salary, but the salaries and benefits of both the HR director and HR technician who would be supporting the HR. So if it was 30% applied to the entire 311, live with that. But if it's just going to be to the HR directors, not the full cost, the $311,000. So you can use their number, say it's got to be, here's the team that's going to be taking care of you. And for 55 or 55 persons, I think is what they are, that's a bargain. Be a bargain for them.
Through the chair.
Sure.
I'm more confused than ever.
I'm saying cut it by 90, cut the cost by $93,000.
Well, what I'm coming up with is that a 30% of what at this point has been suggested in conversation is only $50,000. Is that correct? So of our 532,000 that we have built into all of human resources, we would be getting only 50,000 back from them. Is that correct? I just got that 30% of 187,000. 49.5 is what I think it actually is.
Yeah, probably.
And so we're still looking at, if we were to get that, 482,000, yet last year we estimated 345 and we didn't spend that going outside.
We did, but we have a special arrangement.
Pardon me? Well, actually everything we did last year was considered outside, I guess. Correct? The way that John was paid. So we
Correct,
estimated
but I don't believe that all of John's costs are represented in the $85,000 expected for this year, because it will be spread out over multiple years in the future. Is that correct?
But it was occurred in this year, in previous budget year, correct?
It was incurred over the last two budget years, theoretically. Or, I'm sorry, fiscal 25. So
Okay, that even makes it seem off more. Our estimate last year was $345,000, correct? For human resources, for the department. Is that correct?
May I ask where you were getting the 3.5 from?
You just mentioned that a few minutes ago, I believe. Somebody brought that up. I'm sorry, Anissa, I thought it was you.
Wasn't me.
Did you get it off last year's budget?
What I got off last year's budget, yes. Yeah, $345,000.
Okay.
Which
So we estimated the 345, but my understanding is we didn't use that.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So this year
So
we're
it's less
going
than that.
for, and again, let me just make sure I'm clarified. We estimated 345. We didn't use all of that. And the situation that we used John in would have been considered completely outside council. It would not have been
Up until March of this year, yes.
Up until March of this year.
Yes.
And the expense of that you're talking about is actually 2 years.
I misspoke.
So we must have been significantly under the 345,000 that was estimated. Is that correct?
I misspoke. So John's unpaid period is 1st of July of 2025, March of this year, at which point we appointed him as a retired annuitant with the instruction as per Labor Council. A lot of those incurred costs were deferred. We are in the process of coming up with an agreement for him to pay.
I got that. We're talking about ways to pay that. I don't care if we pay it over the next 20 years. However, that's worked out with John. What I want to know is expenses that were incurred, and if we were well under the 345, I'm trying to understand why we need to add so much to the 345 when we were well under that. Not how you're going to pay it out or collect it, how it was incurred.
John was only making $125 an hour, working X amount of hours a year. The salary is the proposed request is based off of a salary of $165 for 2,080 hours a year. I know your estimate was conservative at $1,600, which incorporates any sort of leave, holiday, etc. So last year's number was lower, but that's just because John's hourly rate was respective to the current salary we're offering. John's rate is under market. He's aware, and it was a blessing that the city was able to get the quality of service that we have for that rate.
Agreed.
But right now, as a retired annuitant, John is now brought in as a extra help, is what the labor law technically calls it, and that extra help is being paid at the hourly rate of the current director's salary, maxed out at $165, which equates to approximately $80 an hour, rounding up. So, yes, last year's HR director position was lower, but John's hourly rate at that point in time was lower at a certain restriction based on CalPERS retirement amounts that they're allowed to work.
Well, that I still can't, and I am totally in favor of a full-time position, but I still, it's not justifying getting from 345 to 532, and hopefully getting 49.5 back. And I don't think I'm simplifying it too much. I just think I'm simplifying it. Give me your feedback there, Jim.
So I think we can certainly sit down and go through all the numbers, but there are a couple of items that I think are muddying the water here. One is the change in location of the HR tech's salary in the budget. I think that changed from last year to this year. And then the other item is...
Stop for 1 second.
Go ahead.
You said
Actually,
it changed from another category?
It was in last year's budget. There was one person, $67,000 worth was in last year's budget.
So the $67,000 is representative of what we would have hired the HR tech at the top step. That's where your $67,000. But because we did not recruit for that position until well into the year, when there was a transition from Maggie into her current role, there were some salary savings related to that adjustment.
Understood. There was a person there, and it was budgeted, full-time person, $67,000.
So
where was that budgeted?
So where did we take it from?
Where was it budgeted? Because I'm looking at this budget sheet,
Yeah,
and it shows
doesn't
zero.
have any of the history, and the history was in the earlier versions of your budgets that you were sharing with members of the council. This version does not have any numbers there, and the earlier versions did. Comparison.
Let me go back.
To the chair.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not quite, don't go too far because I'm not finished yet.
Oh, okay,
But-
sorry, I didn't know you were still
Okay,
had
you
the
want me to
floor.
continue?
Yeah,
The other item, I think, at least from my perspective, that's muddying this, is the payments to Mr. Perry. So Mr. Perry was not being paid from July of 25, is that correct?
Yes.
To March, and that would have been at a rate of $125 per hour. Since he wasn't paid, it doesn't show up in the expected amount of $85,000. Is that correct?
Just a minute. I thought that 85,000 line item was for background checks and what have you, because in the earlier versions of this budget that you showed us, there was another line, 10-112-5172, for $136,000, which was, I presume, the amount expected to be paid. That'd be primarily amount paid to Mr. John, if we hadn't had the
You are correct.
changing
So-
circumstances.
Once again, where is the payment to John Perry from July to March being indicated in the
That is
last year's
indicated in-
expected?
It's not expected. It's not in there. It has been removed because there was a discussion between Mr. Perry and I,
And how much do we owe him?
approximately $100,000.
Okay, so my point is, Vice Mayor, that $100,000 has been accrued that we owe Mr. Perry, and we would have paid it in the 25-26 budget.
that's why I've asked three times or four
Sorry.
times now.
So
We don't have an actual, so we're having to use the estimate. And what I keep getting told is what was incurred as actual is under the total estimate. So we don't know that. Is that what we're saying?
we are missing at least $100,000 from the estimate because we're going to pay that over 5 years or something like that.
Whatever the agreement is.
Again, somehow I'm not getting through. I'm not looking at what we owe. I'm looking what we incurred. We incurred that $100,000.
We did not incur it in the last year's budget. It does not show in the last year's budget.
Are you
Because we didn't pay it.
Incurred means that we owe it to him from 24-25.
If I can help, maybe I can help clarify. Are you asking if we anticipated it in the budget and
No,
did...
I'm
Wait,
not.
wait, but let me finish. Did we anticipate it in the budget and did we incur the expense, and was that incurred expense therefore anticipated as an expected expense of the current fiscal year?
Of the current fiscal year, yes.
So the answer to that is no, it was not anticipated because we knew that we were not going to pay it this current fiscal year, 2026.
Okay, for me, this is totally not making sense. Catch me up, somebody here. If the $100,000 were for the hours that were used in 24-25, then we incurred them in that budget. No matter how we pay them out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The 24-25 budget estimate was $345.
Okay.
25, 26. The year we're ending right now.
Is it $345?
Yes, sir.
Where are we getting $345?
Yeah.
I've got $311 under one plus the expenses of $221.
Well, it was eliminated from this final. Those numbers used to be shown as 2025 budget. And
Okay,
2025
then let me take a step back. Let me take a step back.
But they're not there.
What was the estimated human resource expense for 24-25?
Estimated or the budgeted?
Estimated, budgeted, either one. What was put in the
budget?
budget?
Is the 345.
Okay. That was for 24-25.
25, 26.
I'm asking what's the one for 24, 25?
Oh, just a moment, I've got that, I think. No, I don't. That number is nowhere to be found.
All I'm trying to figure out is whatever we budgeted for 24, 25, did we even spend that? We don't seem to know. And it also tends to be that we're putting Mr. Perry's salary, or expenses, just because we're putting them off for another, to pay them in a different budget, does not mean that they weren't anticipated in that year. Otherwise, you would have budgeted a different amount, correct?
Yes.
So do you have the 24, 25 human resource total budget line? Do you have that available to you?
Just give me.
Vice Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Is there a reason you want 24, 25 versus 25, 26?
All I want to know is I'm sorry. I am totally sorry. 20, I missed it, let me apologize. 25, 26 is what I was looking for, which is the 345,000. Correct? Is that correct? I totally apologize. I gave you the wrong year.
Budget, let's see the name of this.
The 24, 25, the 25, 26 that we're currently in, what did we budget for human resources in our last budget?
File I have is budget-18. First draft budget 27, draft budget-18 is the file number I have. And it shows nothing, and it's the 25, 26 numbers.
I guess it's pretty simple to try and figure where we're going with this this new budget compared to the budget we're in right at the moment, and if we even use that total 345.
And I apologize. The sheet I have in front of me, I don't have the information.
Okay.
And I think that's what Anis is trying to find.
What is the last version that you were looking at for the budget that had the, if you have a label, that would be very helpful.
Well, when I pull it up, it won't show me the full name of your file. Just a minute. 1855 is the last four digits. That's the one I'm looking. Those numbers are even lower. I must have been looking at it earlier when it had. And if you pull that up, the salary number is 67,454.
Yes.
And then you go down, but you don't include the unemployment insurance because I believe that is something that is not part of compensation for the.
Correct.
Okay, so if you take the 67 and add all those other numbers besides the 7,500, you end up with 78,073. And then Mr. Perry, if you go down into services and supplies, I believe Mr. Perry is on line 301 here, but it's 10-112-5172. That would have been Mr. Perry. This one does not have, in that particular version, does not have the $100,000, $85,000 number for all of the background checks in those special services. They must be someplace else in this particular version.
Again, the budget document over the various versions have been allowing me to move where the expenses belong as per the appropriate category. If things are considered general services, they should be in general services. If things are in HR, they should be in HR. So I've been trying to make sure that the expenses are recorded where they should be as part of our chart of accounts.
Yeah, that's why I added the 100 in to come up with the 345 for that budget.
By bringing that 100,000 in.
Yeah, because it wasn't. It must have been someplace else in general services or something. To make these two things comparable, it wouldn't have been fair otherwise.
So we come back to, I believe, our budget number last year was 345,000. Bringing that extra 100,000 in.
And certainly, it's to be expected to go from a situation that we were very happy to have with Mr. Perry. I say that respectfully. And we benefited from it, surely. And it's expected that there would be an increase in cost. Go to a full. Totally expected.
Well, let me ask one more thing,
Go ahead.
please, before you move on. So, Jim, on the services and supplies, if we contract out, does that number change at all? Or do we still end up with those expenses at 221?
We still have.
It depends on what we negotiate.
Not with the fire department. I'm just.
Oh, if we contract out with an outside source, we would.
Outside services.
It would change very little. It might go down some, depending on what the consultant might ask for.
But not a big difference in there.
No, I think it may be offset by the consultant's travel expenses and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm okay for the moment.
Okay, to the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So looking at your posted salary schedule, so it appears, I mean, I was hoping you said you were hoping to negotiate a salary at the lowest range for an HR. So that would be $130,000, right? And the HR tech, I just took a range, who knows where she's at, but I took a range for her at 61,000, middle of the road, step 3. I have no clue where she's at. So
She's
basically,
currently at 62,000.
62, whatever. So I'm off a few dollars there. So really, the cost for salary and benefits, assuming we hire at the very lowest level for an HR tech, and 61,000 I have for the HR, the technician, the director, and the technician. That's $191,000. But why do we have budgeted in here 236?
So, if I may, through the chair, a portion of that increase is due to the restructuring of some of the personnel issues that are on the administrative side. There may be an opportunity to increase responsibility and workload to the HR tech. and that would, which is outside the scope of her normal responsibilities, which would have a corresponding potential increase, whether that be a step or two, based on that new responsibility.
Okay, but wouldn't you put that, assuming she's going to your department, wouldn't that fall under your budget line and not remain in HR?
It would still be in HR because she's still going to be called an HR technician. We would just be able to amend the job description with union authority and approval.
So you don't create a new budget expense, a line and increase budget in finance under budget? Keep her still as an HR tech, does that have something to do with your union?
I don't think we could budget that in either department. I think the tasks we're talking about are payroll related.
Yes.
And so payroll kind of is a combination of an HR function and an accounting function. But I typically see it budgeted in the finance side. What you would then see is probably a split of her salary across two departments.
And that's what I highly recommend.
Allow me to ask a hypothetical. If indeed no arrangement was made with Linda Fire, could the HR director handle all of the tech responsibilities, since the HR director would not have to spend any time dedicated to it's just a hypothetical question. And because, again, we're confessing that 100% isn't required if we're negotiating away 30%. So another way of looking at this is, and I understand the first number thrown out, Mr. City Manager, was by the fire service. We'll cover 30% of salary. Well, that's first number on the table. So you're still talking. But it seems that you've got two people who are going to be the engine that makes HR work. It's going to be the director, tech, and they make it work. If we could get 30% of the 311, it would be 93,000 something, 1,300. Covered by the fire service, I could live with this. But if they're only covering 30% of this other number, that would be, it's a nice deal if you can get it for the fire service, but it's not a good deal for the city. So, again, we're admitting 100% isn't required for the city. But we fix this. We've got an uncertain outcome of a negotiation, and both sides will negotiate hard. So you will for the city, and they will for. In the meantime, we're left wondering what HR looks like, how much it's going to cost us. And I'd feel cavalier saying, "Oh, go ahead, we'll approve the high dollar amount." But in fact, that is again, a step change, sudden and significant change. Total. So, I'm in favor of an HR director, in favor of HR function. It's just how much is it going to cost us? And this dramatic increase budgeted to a budgeted amount. So, and again, it's going to cost us more. I understand that. I don't expect that 345 to be repeated. But go to 587, when we've already confessed we don't need 100% of that.
Where's the 587 coming from? The last number you gave was 532.
532. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong number. 532. Thank you. Go to 532, 187. Dollar difference. Whereas if they could be, again, approving this with the uncertainty as to the outcome of the negotiations with the fire service seems cavalier, not as responsible as we should be.
Through the chair.
Sir.
Wouldn't there, depending on the experience of the individual that may or may not be hired into the HR position, I know that Mr. Perry had the skill set to be able to handle negotiations without our contracted individual. And so can you help me under a contracted person, Patrick, how much do we have budgeted for that kind of thing, negotiations?
We have $75,000.
I thought it was 55 for Patrick.
That line item is 75, and Patrick Clark's services is approximately $55,000 at this point.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I would hope that we would, and again, it's Jim hiring his team, would have somebody that'd be robust enough to possibly be able to handle all the negotiation services without having to do an outside contract. But again, that's up to the council in general. I, for one, I agree with the way this budget is put forth. I mean, I don't want to stop anybody from continuing having questions, but I'd like to present a motion that we accept it as presented and allow the staff to be able to work with the numbers that are here.
Who's that?
I'll second.
Beth,
Yeah. Was that a second?
I'll second that.
would you take a friendly amendment to do it X the HR wages and benefits? Otherwise, I'll have to oppose.
My first stands as put. I'll take it as it has been presented to us.
I think that's irresponsible. Discussion.
I misunderstood what your comment was there.
I said, would you accept a friendly amendment to approve the budget as is X the HR wages and benefits until we know the outcome of the negotiations?
I could agree with that with more clarification on HR for sure.
We may need a parliamentarian here, Counselor.
Mayor, I'm sorry, but before any motions are made, should we open it for public comment?
That's right. Before we get there, we cannot do anything until we have public comment. Just a minute. Public hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone wishing to speak?
Nobody's given me a
Thank you for saving us. Public hearing is now closed.
So through the chair, my motion still stands.
Yeah, I understand that.
To the chair, I'd like to make another comment before we vote on this. If my numbers are correct, roughly with a tech, we're looking at about 72,000 total. Is that correct?
The tech?
The cost of the tech.
The cost of the tech is approximately
About 72,000.
Sorry, 62. Sorry. 62,000.
No, that 62 is the salary.
You're talking all in?
Yeah. All in is roughly 72,000.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I could also be in favor of if we remove the tech until we find if we have any kind of assistance from the fire department. So if we don't, then we've removed 75,000 for a tech, because I have to agree with the mayor. If we're saying that we can do it for 70, that we're going to pay 70% because that's what our time of that person would be, they should be able to do 100% of the work without a tech if they're not doing the fire department. So just an option that I'm throwing out there is I could agree on the fact if we drop that by $72,000 in that budget. We could always make an amendment later if we get an agreement with Linda Fire and we decide we need the tech. We can always make an amendment to the budget later to do that.
Are you indicating that you would like to not only remove the $67,000 or $72,000, but also the position? Because we have that position filled. So that would be...
We have it filled,
Yes.
and that we're paying somebody the
Yes.
$62,000 currently for
Yes.
nothing but that?
They are doing significant personnel-related issues, and we would also be cross-training them to do payroll based on some personnel issues.
So,
As a matter of history, that HR tech position was filled by Maggie Sanchez, who was promoted to the clerk position. So that position has been there for quite some time.
To the chair.
at the $67,000, we had that in the budget for that increase in Maggie's salary when she took on being the tech. What am I missing here? Where did we all of a sudden start spending a full salary, another full salary?
So when Maggie was holding the position of HR tech prior to her taking the clerk position, that position was a full-time permanent position.
Okay.
And the salary schedule has changed minimally, probably just through union negotiations, so 2% roughly. When Maggie was promoted, we recruited and hired another HR tech to backfill her position. So that was here, that position was here. The FTE was here since prior to me being here. It was assisting our former HR/clerk/administrative or executive assistant, Nicole Moe. So it's been here a while.
So where is that particular salary covered under 2526?
It's in there. If you, again, the earlier versions that we saw.
Okay, so it's in there, so we've taken it out of there and put it into here.
It was 67 plus benefits.
Right. And we removed it from another spot of personnel and put it into
So I believe
HR.
So I just want to confirm, because the mayor is correct, that in a previous version of the document, that there was a historic information for the budget amount for fiscal 25-26 at that $60,000 number. $67,000 number. And that's been moved forward into this budget, which has been increased to account for a potential step increase, as well as the full capped out salary for the proposed HR director. But that salary historically has, let me rephrase that, the city has historically always paid for the HR tech. Like Jim said, the position was here prior to his tenure. I apologize if it wasn't appropriately represented in this budget.
I'm going to simplify it again. Was that salary covered under another line item instead of human resources?
No,
previous?
it should have been.
Not where it should have. Where was it?
In a previous version, it was in HR, and now for fiscal 27, it is still in HR. It's just lumped into that 236 number.
Oh, may I?
Please.
I believe it used to be in previous years under the city manager, but I would have to go back and check. And which brings me back to my original suggestion. I think we're doing a lot of guessing here without actual information in front of us, and I would like staff and I to have the opportunity to put something meaningful together for you to look at.
To the chair. I'd still like to second Brad's motion, and I call for a question.
What'd you say?
My second still stands to Brad's first.
Well, the first was premature. He can make it. We had not yet had the public hearing. Cannot make a motion until after the public hearing.
Thank you.
And that's fine. I'm not trying to cut you off. It's just timing wise.
Fair enough. I made the motion before public hearing, but now that we've had the public hearing, I make a motion that we accept this budget as it stands right now.
And I second that.
Discussion.
Well, this has always been my feeling as anytime you deal with public funds, as a city council member, I have a duty to be prudent steward of taxpayers' funds, the city of Marysville taxpayers' funds. So I have a hard time, I know it's still under negotiation, salaries. But if it was salary only, I can't approve that. All of the required statutory benefits are required and part of salary. So we as a city would be paying the full cost of the HR statutory benefits with city money.
Maybe I miscommunicated. I was expecting that the 30% would be salary and benefits for the HR director.
Okay.
Not,
I didn't hear that at first.
But not the salary and benefits for the tech. That has not been discussed.
I understand that.
Based on your comments, I have no concerns going back and asking for the salary and benefits for both positions.
Okay. Then that clears up my mind for that, because, again, I know we're still under negotiations, but, again, I want to make sure full cost of salary and benefits, that they will be whatever we agree upon, that percentage.
And I don't...
Not only salaries.
I don't want to overcommit.
I know.
We have to negotiate it.
I understand.
But I would move forward negotiating with those terms if that's the will of the council.
And also, I also agree with them paying the 30% of the services and supplies. Now, unless there's something in here, whatever, the professional and specialized services, that would be our cost, right? They wouldn't benefit from there. But all those other costs up there should be, big deal, they're not much, right? Let's see, they're maybe $50,000 at the most, right? So those costs, they're going to benefit from any professional development that we go to, the staff goes to. They're going to, and the dues and subscriptions, the office supplies, 30% of all those costs, they should have to pay. I know.
I want to kind of sidetrack a little bit. Mm-hmm. When we negotiated the agreement with Linda Fire to provide fire chief services, mm-hmm. It was much simpler than what we're talking about. Okay. It was a straight, I think it was $9,000 a month, which would total $9,600 a year. So regardless of how much effort they put into it on their end, it was $9,000 a month. It could be that may be the arrangement, just a lump sum. It just depends on what the negotiation occurs. But we can look for that number of salary and benefits for both positions. If they would be willing to accept that, great. If not, we might be coming back and asking for additional direction from council.
Okay.
So, if I understand you correctly, it's the 311 plus everything under services and supplies except that $100,000 number. So that ends up being $423,000, something like that. And I think 30% of that's 129. I like that. think we need a savings of at least 100. We would have to have at least 100,000, suggesting 129. But at least 100. At least 100. Make this palatable for me. Otherwise, any other comments, questions? Okay.
Through the chair, real quick, Mayor. I gave you a motion, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, that there should be a salary savings. My decision to go ahead and put a motion to approve it here is because we are creating the ceiling of what our staff can do and work within. I do agree that the negotiation, as it progresses, needs to be sharp and swift, and I believe that you all have been pretty clear on what you want our council, our staff, to be able to talk with on a potential future MOU with regards to HR. I also like to say that HR, in the years that I've been here on the council, has become more and more and more used over the past several years for several reasons, with issues within the departments that I don't even know all of the stuff that happened. Maybe you do, Mayor, I don't. But HR has become busy. And I think that it is a department that needs a fair recognition, and that's why I believe that Jim has done a fine job, Chad, for creating your executive team over the years and allowing you the limit to be able to at least go through the process of making this happen. So that was my last comment towards it, and please go forth, Mayor.
If I may comment on that, then $187,000 is extravagant. By saying, go ahead and hope we do better, we're committing ourselves to the bigger number. Committing ourselves to the bigger number, and I just can't support that absent some arrangement, and I don't know if this can be appropriate. This isn't a budget discussion. We're looking for at least a six-figure sharing of these expenses. Rollins makes a great point that all of these other expenses down below, services and supplies, are supportive of what's done by the HR engine, by those two people.
Do not disagree.
So it seems irresponsible to say, oh, well, we might be at 187,000, when maybe it could only be.
We could choose not to pass the budget and just go into the next year then.
We could pass a budget with a reservation as to HR until such time as we know what the terms of the arrangement are.
If it fails, then we'll go back to having that conversation.
But you don't, but your proposal and the motion and the second was accept as is.
I trust our staff, and I trust they're going to do its best because they've done a fine job over the past several years and gotten stronger and stronger, and we are just allowing and approving a potential budget for them to work within.
To the chair. Since I have sat in this chair, I, in real time, in the real world, do trust my staff. And I am being prudent, and I know the public appreciates this. There has never been a time that I haven't been able to trust and rely on my city staff. And this time is no different. This is a unique situation where we're actually annexing. It's not an everyday occurrence. So my second stands. Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Motion is made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Rollins. Councilmember Gilchrist.
Approved.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes.
I didn't say anything.
Councilmember or Vice Mayor Betticavoli.
No.
I didn't vote. I just.
I'm sorry.
Because I wanted to know if I could add anything. So I guess I can't add till it comes back.
If it comes back.
Yeah.
So what's your vote?
No, if it comes back, I mean, I couldn't add to the motion.
But as to this, but as to the motion to accept as is,
Yeah.
aye or nay?
It's no until we can get the negotiation settled.
Apologize. Vice Mayor Bettacavoli? Mayor Branscombe?
No.
Okay, so bring it open for discussion again, and let's do another amendment, and let's just wait for an MOU to be written.
Find a happy place.
I don't know if we're going to, but let's go ahead and make a decision.
What was your suggestion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, please, go ahead.
That we pass the budget with the exception of the human resource area. We'd send it back to staff. Jim, you said you thought you could bring better numbers back to us for a better clarity. And then we could deal with that once you get that back to us.
This is more of a question for council. I assume we can do that legislatively. In the next.
May I suggest, rather than put the entire department in abeyance, how about we approve services and supplies, which are ongoing, and we approve continuing to pay the HR tech, because otherwise we can't continue paying the HR tech. And so simply take out the HR director, which till we know the entire complexion of the situation based on negotiations with.
Well, just a sec. I didn't say I would have negotiations done. What I said was I'd have numbers in front of you representing what the previous budgets were versus the current budget.
Well,
I'm going to commit to a week, by the end of the week, to have those numbers, not the negotiations.
Through the chair, because negotiations could take another month or two at best. Because it's going to have to go before two different boards, at this board, that board, and then possibly back to us as just time goes.
And what was your suggestion again? You were making a motion.
I'm going to withdraw this for a moment because now we're getting down to talking about the 165,000 plus expenses is all we're discussing now.
Plus benefit, yeah. It's
167 or the 165 plus benefits, tax and benefits.
Roughly
That
220,000 with benefits. That's more realistically about 100.
well, there's not 220 in here.
I'm just.
Oh, with benefits, taxes and benefits.
got to be about 160 because salaries, because the HR tech was 67 the year before, so it's probably a little bit more. We have an HR technician in place. We need to continue paying them, so that needs to be in the budget. We have these ongoing expenses, dues, subscriptions, all of the service and supplies numbers, except for the $100,000 number for professional and specialized services. Those equal 100. I think we can approve.
Well, then basically all we're doing is going back and if we're doing it the way you're suggesting, if I'm not wrong, we're going back basing the fact on what the negotiations are going to come out at. So if that's the case, I'll withdraw any kind of motion, and I would have to reconsider the first.
Chair can make a motion. Thank you. I would propose, again, we have an HR technician in place. That person needs to continue to be paid tomorrow. And we have these ongoing items, 10-112, 5115 through 5235, 121,000 that are ongoing in support of the function. And so I would suggest we approve all of that and simply withhold on hiring an HR director until we know what the situation is with the fire service, how much they're willing to pay. That may affect how much of a HR director we hire. Sir.
If we do that, then I'm going to hopefully not cross my finance director, but we have $100,000 in professional services budgeted, proposed. Yes. That could cover John's salary for the next month easily.
Yes.
And then if we needed to hire one of these HR consultants at somewhere between $162 an hour to $275 an hour, we could utilize that money to hire those consultants as well.
Yes, with the caveat that if anything needs to be adjusted, I will request a supplemental appropriation at that point in time.
So I think I made that motion. And again, it's approve the budget as presented, except for salary for the HR director until such time as we understand exactly where we stand with the fire service in terms of cost sharing. We have a second. Hard to make a friend around here.
I'll second it.
Beg your pardon?
Oh, I second.
Moved and seconded. Sir?
When you say we're removing, you're talking about removing the 165 plus all of the expenses associated with it?
Yeah, the cost of the HR director, salary and benefits.
Salary and benefits.
Until such time as we understand exactly what the workload's going to be.
And on top of that, Jim, you said any services in the meantime we would pull out of the $100,000 professional and specialized services?
Yes, in the case where John leaves on the end of the month, then we would need to hire a consultant, HR consultant. We've talked to two consultants that are pretty prominent in the industry, and their unaudited rates are $162 per hour and $275 per hour, depending on the consultant you use. Those would be to tide us over until a decision could be made. Now, if that decision was not to hire the HR director, then as our finance director pointed out, we would be coming back to council asking for an additional appropriation of probably $150 to $250 in appropriations for the consultant.
Through the chair, you're saying that if we go that particular route, we're probably going to come back for, let's say, $200,000 on appropriation, but the motion is saving us, what, $211,000 right now? It's approved? Okay, thank you.
So, moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Rollins. Councilmember Gilchrist.
I am slightly confused, and I would like to move this forward, so I will approve it.
Councilmember Hudson.
For the sake of moving forward and saving whatever, yes.
Vice Mayor Bettacavoli.
Yes.
Mayor Branscombe.
Yes, ma'am, and I think what this does is puts a premium on the negotiations and the timing of negotiations with the fire service and the sharing arrangement, and we can get this thing cleaned up and have a full-time director in place. Okay, now everything else that was approving item number 1 of the list of items, and we have the other items. Actually, items 3 through 7. Do we have a motion on those? I'll make the motion. I move we pass those.
Second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Must be unanimous, Madam Clerk. Okay, next regular meeting of Marysville City Council, Tuesday, July 7th, 2026, 6 p.m.
Thank you, City Staff.
can support or sponsor. Help keep the community aware with Yuba-Sutter.LIVE.